I ran for chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party because I want to make sure that we elect leaders who are going to fight for more freedoms for South Carolinians, not less. Ron DeSantis, who is visiting the Palmetto State for the first time since his glitchy Twitter space launch, has a MAGA Florida blueprint that represents the complete opposite of freedom. A majority of South Carolinians want the freedom for women to choose what happens to our own bodies. They want the freedom to have affordable health care options, and they want the freedom to feel safe in their communities no matter what they look like or who they love. Yes, DeSantis has used his time in the governor's mansion to give us a preview of what he wants to do on the national stage, which is rip away the basic freedoms we hold dear as Americans. In Florida, DeSantis signed into law a ban that bans abortion before a woman even knows she's pregnant. He signed a law that can make it easier for criminals to carry guns, and he signed laws banning books in schools while erasing LGBTQ students' freedom to safely exist in their own classrooms. If this record sounds familiar, it's because MAGA South Carolina Republicans in the legislature are hell-bent on replicating the very same thing here in our state. The entire Republican Party has become so extreme that it's turned into the anti-freedom party. And these anti-freedom actions have severe consequences. Just look at what DeSantis has done to Florida. Florida leads the nation in rising housing costs. Property insurance companies are taking advantage of Florida homeowners while DeSantis bailed out these same companies with taxpayer dollars and helped shield these companies from lawsuits. And Florida is facing one of the highest teacher shortages in the country. This is the record DeSantis is proud of and is exactly what he wants to bring to our nation. It's an honest representation of the fact that Republicans don't really care about our freedoms like they pretend they do. It's clear that the 2024 Republicans, whether it's Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, or Tim Scott, are all beholden to the same MAGA agenda. As he travels South Carolina today, Ron DeSantis needs to answer for his support of these extreme policies that threaten our freedoms and put our livelihoods at stake. And with that, I will pass it to Representative Annie McDaniel.
Good morning, and thank you to the South Carolina Democratic Party Chair Lady, Crystal Spain. I'm Representative Annie E. McDaniel, and I'm here today because Ron DeSantis is traveling through our state to tout his extreme agenda, and like the rest of the 2024 field of Make America Great Again, MAGA, Republicans, that agenda is a danger to South Carolina and a threat to our freedoms. As a representative in the South Carolina State House, I know exactly how damaging a MAGA agenda like DeSantis's could be for communities across the country. Because I'm seeing that agenda being replicated with my own two eyes here in South Carolina. It's obvious how similar South Carolina Republicans' far-right agenda in the legislature lines up with DeSantis' extreme record in Florida. But it comes as no surprise for a party that is so beholden to Donald Trump and his mega agenda at every level of government. A few months ago, DeSantis signed a law making it easier for criminals to carry guns. Beholden to the same special interests, South Carolina Republicans passed their own permitless carry bill against the will of parents and law enforcement officials. A cornerstone of DeSantis' agenda is banning books, threatening teachers if they don't teach how he wants them to teach, and refusing to allow LGBTQ plus students the freedom to exist in their own classrooms. South Carolina Republicans are trying to do the same. DeSantis has been governor since 2019 and has made Florida just one of 10 states, including our own, that has refused to expand Medicaid, even through Floridians face some of the highest out-of-pocket insurance costs in the country. For someone who touts this record of rippling abortion access away from women, you think DeSantis would be interested in making sure they had access to affordable prenatal care and checkups? Well, he's not. Is this really the kind of leadership we want in the White House? Instead, His cruel agenda bans abortion before men and women even know they're pregnant. South Carolina Republicans passed a similar extreme abortion ban just a few weeks ago right here in South Carolina. Thankfully, a judge halted enforcement of the law for now. But in Florida, we can see our future if the South Carolina Supreme Court allows this abortion ban to be reinstated. Under Ron DeSantis' anti-choice agenda, women in Florida are facing dangerous complications in their pregnancies and still being barred from the care they need. Women are forced to leave the state in order to get the vital care they need. And victims of rape and incest are being forced to show proof of the crimes committed against them if they want to get an abortion. Shame. House Democrats provided over 1,000 amendments to our state's dangerous abortion ban that included expanding Medicaid, providing funding for health care deserts in our rural areas, but they all were rejected following DeSantis. Let's be honest. Republicans aren't actually concerned for women's health care. They just want to rip away the freedoms an entire generation has had for the sake of their Make America Great Again meta agenda. When DeSantis takes the stage today in Lexington and Greenville, and I say again, when DeSantis takes the stage today in Lexington and Greenville, we know what to expect. He'll focus on the culture wars that he's prioritized over working families and continue pushing an agenda that rips away our most basic freedoms. Remember, ripping away our most basic freedoms. National abortion bans, calls to cut Social Security and Medicare, and threatening the freedoms of vulnerable communities. That is what every single Republican presidential candidate vying for the nomination is running on. And we'll make sure South Carolinians know it. So thank you, and now I will pass it on to South Carolina State Representative Beth Bernstein.
I feel like we're being so formal, casual. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Beth Bernstein. I do represent a district right here in Columbia, Richland County, House District 78. And Annie and Crystal, the things they have said, they've had good, accurate things to say, and I agree with them. And I'd like to expand on that a little bit without being too repetitive, but it's hard not to repeat some of the same issues because they're so important to us here in South Carolina, and we're seeing this trend across our country. Many in today's right-wing MAGA Republican Party are ripping away the rights and freedoms of our previous generations have fought so strongly for. And Ron, should I say DeSantis or DeSantis? I don't think he's given us any clarity on how to pronounce his last name. Who is campaigning in South Carolina today is no exception. Governor DeSantis' record of banning abortion, relaxing gun safety laws, censorship of books, inciting fear-mongering against the LGBTQ community, supporting plans to gut Social Security and Medicare, and weaponizing his office against Disney for condemning his views. All of these policies are harsh and draconian. As we stand here today, he is across this state espousing this dangerous rhetoric in his effort to be president of the United States. And as we know, these views are not good for the country, let alone, more particularly for me in South Carolina. It's not good for South Carolina. Let's examine a little bit what he's done in Florida. Florida has one of the most extreme abortion bans in the United States. He signed into law a constitutional carry bill in his state where mass shootings are prevalent. The state is also facing one of the highest teacher shortages in this country due to his Don't Say Gay bill, which inhibits teachers' ability to teach and it instills fear in the classroom. His banning books, threatening teachers and librarians with penalties is outrageous. Make no mistake, this is part of a disturbing and dangerous trend that we are seeing across the country, a conservative, right-wing politicians putting forth impossible to comply with laws to undermine the democratic values which our country was founded. It is clear that Governor DeSantis is more worried about catering to the right-wing conservative MAGA base and stoking culture wars than delivering for hardworking families. South Carolina does not need any more right-wing MAGA Republicans like this. We've got enough of them in the legislature. South Carolina's need people in leadership who will lower costs for hardworking families, expand healthcare options, not take them away, and respect the rights and freedoms the generations before us sacrificed so much to protect. And remember, not even one of the extreme right-wing MAGA Republicans who are running for president, including Governor DeSantis, meet those qualifications, and it would be bad for our country and bad for South Carolina. I think you all can see that we think that Governor DeSantis would not be good for our country, and particularly in South Carolina. And if you have any questions,